First of all, how's everybody doing? Everybody great? Excited to be here. Excited that we're getting close to starting the season. Really excited for our players. Hard to believe it's been almost 170 days since we started practice in August. That's just the way it is in baseball. So you're together a ton. That really helps you as a team get closer. Gives you a lot of time to prepare for the season. I don't just look at it as January is the only month that we get to prepare in a little bit of February. But we've been at it hard since August, I think 18th was the first day of class. It's a great group. I enjoy being around them every single day. We talk about how it's an honor and a privilege to be at the University of North Carolina. I feel the same way. It's an honor and a privilege to be the head coach here, to be here today. I'm excited to get started against Indiana. We still have a lot of work to do before that game. It's been a challenge, but we're not the only ones that have challenges with weather. We'll keep putting that tarp on and taking it off and shoveling snow, whatever it takes. But I know our guys are ready to play another uniform. I'm excited to watch them play another uniform. But I remind them we gotta get better today, so that's what we're getting ready to do. But again, I can't speak enough of the team that we have from the standpoint. It's a well-led team. Gavin Gallagher and Matias are our two captains this year. We're excited about that. They aren't our only leaders, but they are our captains. So I'm excited for them in that role. Two young men that when they got here really didn't say much, that have learned how to lead. I'm excited for them about leading our team. Also want to give a shout out before we start to our staff, my entire staff, the work they put in, the preparation, the recruiting of getting the players here. That's why we are where we are, why we have a legit chance to compete, hopefully at a national level. And again, as the head coach, it's just an honor and a privilege for me to be in this position again.
Okay, we'll open it up to questions. Go ahead, Tommy.
8 months since the season ended, 10 days until this one starts. What's keeping you up at night?
Honestly, I feel like I sleep pretty good. But there are certain things that you think about more often. For me, it's just making sure that I've done my part as the head coach here. Make sure we don't have a stone that hasn't been, we haven't turned that thing over and prepared for every situation. For me, the only thing really that keeps me up at night is not feeling like I have our players prepared so they can just go out and play free and easy. So that's the one thing that I think about often. The health factor is a factor. You're hoping that you can stay healthy, but you also know that that's part of the game. So really that's the main thing, just making sure that we're prepared. I feel like it's a great question because I felt like the other night, I'm like, man, I don't feel like we're ready. I don't feel like we're ready. And I was just thinking about it's been so cold, but then I stepped back and looked at our practices, and our guys have still done a good job. So they'll be ready. It's probably just me thinking like that.
Go ahead, Arlen.
Major rebuilding if your roster, you're still preseason number 11. In the transfer portal era, is this becoming kind of routine? Because you had major roster reconstruction the previous offseason too, and what are the challenges there?
It's going to be a challenge every year, and I talked to our administration a lot about this, and I keep it on my game card. I'm a huge Nick Saban fan, and he always talked about that commitment to success has to be there for success to remain. And I do feel like we've had that commitment. We are in a new landscape, and I'm hoping we continue to have that commitment because we want to compete nationally. And that's what this baseball program has been able to do. I think the good thing for all of us baseball coaches is you expect to lose a lot of players, especially if they're talented, because of the draft. So while the transfer portal is a newer thing, the transfer portal for me, you still have to get the right guys just like you have to get the right high school guys, and then you have to combine those guys and try to do all you can as a head coach to make them the best team that they can be. We lost a lot of players in 2024. We had some guys step in last year. We lost a lot of great players off last year's team. But I look at it more of the more talent you have, the more you're going to lose now more than ever, because you are going to have some guys in the transfer portal. If they're here, they're going to get drafted hopefully high, because if they get drafted high, that means they played well, and that means we played well. So I look at it like hopefully we can have the resources and the ability to go out and get those key transfers as well as combine them with great freshmen and our player retention. We've hung our hat on that. Our guys haven't left North Carolina, and that's why we've been able to remain nationally competitive.
Michael?
Scott, when you look at starting pitching, obviously you have Jason as probably your number one guy. Do you feel like at this point it's maybe Folger at number 2, and what do you think the plan is for number 3?
I think it's really competitive. For me, I would say it's 1A, 1B, 1C. I'm gonna pitch who I think gives us the best chance to win Friday. If that's DeCaro to start the season, it'll be DeCaro. If it's Lynch, it'll be Lynch. If it's Boaz, it'll be Boaz. If it's a freshman like Caden Glauber, it'll be Caden Glauber. I think we're pretty close on settling in on that and making that decision. But the more competition you have, the harder those decisions can be. So I'm hoping to have to make a lot of really tough decisions. And some of those really talented pitchers are going to have to pitch for us out of the bullpen like Dalton Pence did, who was our best pitcher in 2024, I thought. But his willingness to accept that role out of the bullpen is why we made it to Omaha. But Jason has been a horse for us. It's hard to believe he's already a junior. He's still one of the youngest players on our team. But I want us to scrimmage. It's been a challenge with the days. We haven't been able to really go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It looks like we're going to be able to do that this weekend. So sometime Monday, I'll sit down with our coaching staff and we'll make a decision on what our rotation will be against Indiana.
Riker?
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned that Gavin was named a captain and kind of building off of a really strong finish to this season. What are some things that you've seen from him and taking that captain role this offseason and some of his growth as a player?
Yeah, Gavin, again, like Jason, it's hard for me to believe. I feel like every year that I coach the guys, the time goes faster, number one. And I try not to look at, hey, this is probably Gavin's, potentially his last season here. I look at it more like we've benefited from having Gavin Gallagher. He's been consistent since the day he walked on campus. Credit to Gavin, he's very coachable. Him and Coach Weirs has spent a ton of time in the cages. He's worked on becoming more of a complete player. But he's also completely bought into what we believe in here with our standards and our culture, and has a team first mentality. Play anywhere on the field to help help your team win, and then you'll be rewarded once the major league side draft comes around. And I firmly believe because of Gavin's attitude towards that, he's being rewarded. He can play third, he can play short, he can play second. He was at first base, I think, the last out against LSU in 2024. That was probably some bad coaching decisions, but we ended up winning it anyway. But he can play. He's played outfield for us. But just to watch him grow, you look at him, and his body's in great shape. He doesn't take days off from practice. He leads by example. And now, as a captain, he's learning that I also have to lead verbally some as well.
Coach, this is the first year of the revenue sharing and the new roster limits, and baseball's been impacted by, as much as anybody, by expanding the number of scholarships you can give. How did you approach the offseason when it comes to some of that off the field stuff? And can you manage a roster with, 35 as opposed to 40 or 50?
Yeah, I like the smaller roster, just from the standpoint, I think it's good for college baseball. We didn't have to get to that 34 immediately because of DSAs, but those are going to go away eventually, and we are going to be at the 34, and I think that's a good number. Especially when it comes to player, coach, the number towards each. This is really, moving forward, is going to be the first year of really where we're going to see where rev share comes in. Because although it did come in quite a bit last year, you could offset that a little bit until a certain date with NIL money. It was a little bit of the wild, wild west. I'm sure you guys have researched that. So that's important to me, and again, that's we have to be committed to baseball to have a chance to win a national championship here every year. So, I'm not going to sit up here and hide from the fact that we need as much rev share as we can possibly get, but I also don't believe in excuses. I also don't believe in complaining. We have that no complaining rule on our team. You have what you have at the time, and you've got to adapt, and you've got to figure out a way to get it done on the field. So that's what we're going to try to do. But I do feel like with our support, we've had such unbelievable support with Carolina baseball, that we have been able to put together a roster that I think, while we may not have as much as some teams, we may have more than other teams. And at the end of the day, it's still, you have to get the right players.
Were you able to get to the fully funded scholarships?
We were, yes, and that helps tremendously. Which, I mean, let's be honest, college baseball is booming, and it shouldn't be an Olympic sport. People may not like that. That's okay. You look at Omaha, you look at the attendance, you look at what these players are signing for in the major league draft. You look at just look at it across the board, and so you're telling me a player like Vance Honeycutt, hasn't been on a full scholarship for his entire career here pretty much, and this is the first year. So it's about time that it happened. And while I am thankful that we went to the 34, we should be at the 34 because of our history and what we've done on the field.
Coach, you said at the end of the fall that you felt like you guys had come along a good amount defensively, but still had a long ways to go. Where would you kind of assess where you guys stand right now?
I always think we have a long ways to go. It's just my mentality. But we do talk about, you're going to win championships with pitching and being fundamentally sound defensively, being able to run the bases, being able to execute and generate a run when you need to. I think we've made great strides. I think a guy like Cooper Nicholson has made the transition over to third base. I think he's gotten a lot better. Even guys that aren't in the starting lineup, like an A.J. Terry and Lee Sowers, they've made progress. Gavin's adjusted to being in the middle. He's going to start at second base. Jake Schaffner's going to play shortstop. They complement each other really, really well. We've developed some depth at first base as well. Paulson will be the starter, but Tyler Howe has shown he can play left, center, right, and first base. Ron Kellis has improved at first base. And Pat, I tell you what, our catching situation is probably as good as it's been since maybe B. Mark and Cody Roberts. We always had those guys that we could catch one, DH the other. I feel like this year we can keep them a little more rested throughout the season, so hopefully they can continue to have that bat speed in Macon Winslow and Colin Heineck.
Back right.
Coach, who do you think has improved the most this offseason, and is there anyone on the roster this year who can kind of fly under the radar and is surprising folks?
Who's improved the most? Oh man, probably since he got here just in a short amount of time, a freshman named Tyler Howe. He's really improved with strength and conditioning. He's gotten stronger. He could always hit since the first day he got here, but he's gotten faster. He's gotten the balls coming off his barrel. He's not the only one though. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't, you either get better or you get worse. You don't stay the same. So if you're getting worse, something's not right. So I feel like a lot of our guys have gotten better, but I'd say Tyler Howe. Under the radar, I think we have a lot of depth. I would say a guy, I don't know if he's under the radar necessarily, like a Michael McGinnis that played every day at Georgia State. He didn't have the fall he wanted to have, but he stepped up there against NC State. He looked really calm, looked like he had a slow heartbeat. He's had a good preseason. He hit 300. I think he had 52 RBIs at Georgia State, stole 18 bases. So he would be one. I think we have some other guys that may not be in the lineup. That's the beauty of baseball. You play so many games, your lineup's going to change. I mean, last year I looked at it on opening day. I think Gavin was in the 8-hole, maybe in the 9-hole because his preseason was so bad. But this year's preseason can be terrible. He's not going to be in the 8 or the 9-hole. But there's going to be somebody, that we don't even think is probably going to be in the lineup that gets an opportunity and never comes out. That's the beauty of a college baseball season.
Thank you, Coach.
Todd.
Hey Scott, has Macon messed up and wore the wrong color of blue yet to practice? And seriously, what's it like to get a catch like that?
I mean, again, thankfully he chose us. I don't look at it as like, oh, wow, he was at Duke. I look at it like he went on the transfer portal. He could have went anywhere he wanted to go in the country. He's that good. He's that talented. And he chose us. He had a lot of faith in us. He stayed in state. He had a relationship. His dad did. His dad played, I think, one season, maybe 2 at Barton for Coach Jackson. So I mess with Coach Jackson all the time. You got Kane Kepley here with you and at Liberty, and now you got Macon Winslow. So you got to have somebody like that every single year. But you'd have to talk to Macon more about like what his feelings are towards that. But he is definitely in the right blue now for sure.
Monty, go ahead.
You know, speaking of guys who are on the radar and the retention, somebody who made major strides in the fall and the offseason, Boston Flannery, is a guy, is he somebody you envision having a more expanded role in the pitching staff? Because you've got a deep pitching staff, but obviously with the strides he's taken, it's somebody who could definitely help, right?
Yeah, I think he's an X factor for sure. You know, I was so pleased with how much better he has improved. And I'm also thankful that he decided to stick with it and in the transfer portal world, not jump ship, because he's always had that talent. But he's improved in every area. He's become a better student. He's more mature. I think that's going to help him as a pitcher. But Coach Howell and Coach Gaines have done a really good job with Boston. He's changed some things in his delivery. He's changed some of his pitches, kind of like Folger Boaz has added a new pitch, has helped him. Flannery's added a new pitch or two. His control's been better. His PFPs have been better. So he's going to be thrown in the fire. And the good thing is he is a junior. Even though he doesn't have a lot of innings pitched in games, he has been here. He knows what to expect. He's been in the Omaha dugout. He's been in regional, super regional. So I think that's really going to help Boston. And, you know, we need him. You know, he's athletic. And I think he's got great stuff. So I think he's got a chance to really emerge and be one of our main guys.
Chris?
Scott, you've talked a lot about the 5 pillars of this program. They're on the wall right there. Which one of those do you think this team most embodies?
I'm gonna go with servanthood with this team. Obviously, humility is at the top for a reason. I don't think you can be great and not have humility, but I feel like this team is understanding how important it is to serve each other and to make we define service as a team. Within the team is making your teammates better. And if you focus on that instead of focusing on yourself all the time and you make your teammates better, it's going to make everybody else better. It's going to end up making you better. And then how do you do that? What does that look like? Well, that looks like, you know, you got to lead yourself first. But I feel like this team cares about each other. They serve each other well. And it's hard. Everybody wants to play. They know Friday, we've been scrimmaging. Everybody's been playing. That's not going to be the case. But the great teams, they keep their eye on the right thing. They stay ready. They care about, at the end of the day, getting the win more than anything else. So I'm hoping, and I feel like that's a word that suits this team well.
Shelby?
Yeah, Scott, I just wanted to ask just this off-season approach, how it's been different from maybe years in the past. I know you've talked about the recruit maybe being more of a 1-year out versus a 2-year thing with the portal versus high school. How is this different with, you know, general manager and some of the other things maybe you're balancing?
Yeah, you know, it's different in a lot of areas, but it's also the same from the standpoint of coaching is coaching. It's relationship driven. I don't think you're going to get the most out of your players if you don't get to know every one of them individually. So you just have to work harder because guys you're going to have more new guys every year, and they're going to be here less. So that's just part of it. But again, you know, if you like challenges, one of my favorite things about coaching is no team's the same. Every team's different. And then how do I do my job as the head coach to give this team the best chance for them to have success? You know, to answer that question, that part really hasn't changed. You know, I don't think you're going to get the most out of your guys, no matter how much money's on the field, if it's not a relationship-driven. They say it's transactional, but it's really not. I mean, it has to be transformational, like Coach Saban said, in my opinion, to be successful. But you do have to shorten. We're not looking 3 years out right now. We're looking at this year's team. How can we maximize this team? And then, okay, next year's team. Who do we think, after going through the fall, most of the preseason, who do we think is going to be back on next year's team that has a legitimate chance to play for us? And then already, what do we feel like our number one needs are going to be to hopefully be in this position? I mean, not that preseason rankings for me, they're great for recruiting and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, where are you going to be ranked when you get to those regionals and super regionals and hopefully at the end? But you want to be competitive and feel like when you walk out on the field, what you have in your dugout is as good, if not better, than the other dugout.
I guess just a quick follow-up on that. When the season ended, what were those main areas that you feel like you had to fill?
Yeah, I mean, just reality too goes in. You know, we got Jake Schaffner scheduled to visit. Did we lose to Arizona on a Sunday or Monday? On a Sunday. He's scheduled to visit on a Monday. So obviously, you know what we're hoping, that we're celebrating and we're happy-go-lucky, we're all excited, and it just didn't happen that way. So you have to be to flip that switch, number one, and know you have one of the best shortstops in the country coming in here on a visit. You have to give him a great experience and hopefully get him here so you can, you know, be celebrating the next year. But we were looking at, you know, when you looked at last year, we knew what we were going to lose. I mean, we were losing almost every one of our position players. We were going to lose less on the mound, and we did feel pretty good about our high school pitching that we had coming in. So we went to work early on, we already had our high school kids committed, so we went to work early on the portal. We were very strategic with the portal. Again, I want to give my coaching staff the best in the country. And we identified what we were looking for. We were able to land, we felt like, positionally, almost everybody that we went after. But we did want to add some arms. I'm not going to hide from that. But we didn't land the ones, you know, that we went after. Hopefully we can land those in the future, maybe with, you know, more rev share potentially. But at the end of the day, you know, I like our group, but we felt like we knew we had to replace Stokely, Vandy, Amad, center, right. I mean, and we got some pretty good ones.
Got time for two more of RL and Grace.
Can you go through the lineup? You kind of touched on second, third, and catcher. Who you would start if the season started today? Who's your leadoff guy? That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're close, so I don't mind doing that at all, and it could change. So even though I go over it today, if you want to put it down, great, but things change quickly. You know, if we played today, Jake Schaffner would lead off. He plays shortstop. Gavin Gallagher would hit second. He would play second base. Owen Hole would play center field, hit the 3 hole. Bacon Winslow would catch and hit the 4 hole. Eric Paulson would play first base, hit the 5 hole. Cooper Nicholson, third base, 6 hole. Seventh, if we played today, would be Tyler Howe, probably right field or left field, one of the two. And then DH and the other outfield position are extremely competitive in a good way. I don't want to say, it would depend probably if we were facing a right-hander or a lefty. It's a lot like the 2018 group where we could match up a little bit. And I feel like we have some good options there. But I would have to sleep on it if we were playing tomorrow and I would probably make that decision honestly based on who we were facing and who we felt matched up the best in that 8 and 9 hole.
Quick follow-up, the bullpen, Walker and Matty, what are their roles? I assume Walker is your closer?
I mean, it's hard to say necessarily early in the season with pitch counts being a little bit lower that you're going to have a quote closer. I'm just so thankful Matias is back. I don't believe in excuses. I believe in facts. And you know, Matty was that security blanket that we had until we lost him last year, and that was a credit to some of our other guys stepping up and giving us a chance still to potentially go to Omaha. But having him back gives us even more flexibility in the bullpen. Matty is feeling really good. We got to, you know, he's going to want to pitch every single day. So we're not going to let him pitch every day, but he's going to be ready to pitch. So that's a pretty good punch, McDuffie and Matias. But we have a lot of other guys out of that bullpen. You mentioned Boston Flannery. We got Seagraves. We got some young guys. So I would say, you know, either McDuffie or Matias today would be our closer, and I think they both could be closers earlier, so we don't have to wear them out.
Grace, last one.
First college program in the country to get a traject machine. How have you seen your hitters utilize that, and have you gotten in the cages and tried to face Zach Gallen yet?
I have not tried to face Zach Gallen, but I have had at bats against traject, and they have told me what was coming, but I have not swung and missed either. So I would definitely swing and miss if I didn't know what was coming. So our guys don't know what's coming, so they swing and miss all the time. But the traject has been, you know, anytime something comes out, we look at it technology-wise, is can it make our players better? And it was a no-brainer. Coach Datris, Kyle Datris and Brandon Martirano and Coach Martirano are back here finishing their degrees like a lot of our guys do. And they told us about it. We started doing research. We talked to Michael Bush. And we knew that if we could make this happen, you know, this could help us. This could help our guys get better, help us be more prepared. And, you know, I was sitting down with Mr. Bryson, one of our biggest supporters, and he just stepped up and said, hey, let's get this thing. And again, like, he's the reason we got it. And I want to make sure, you know, people know that you don't get a machine like that unless you have someone that really cares about your program. He'd probably be mad that I just said that too in an interview. But we have, I mean, man, it has been awesome. Now again, the one thing about trajectory, see, here's the deal with all this technology. It doesn't replace hard work / discipline and competitiveness, you know, those things. But it does allow you to face a pitcher in a live situation, controlled, and get those live at-bats for our hitters. And I feel like technology-wise, the pitching's been so far ahead of the hitters that now this machine, if you Google it and you research it, Traject is the first hitting tool that we feel like is starting to narrow that gap a little bit. And I just think it's fascinating because, you know, you can literally put in Zach Gallen and you can see why he's so good. You know, when you, and it helps our guys too. It helps hitters understand they have to get over themselves pretty quick, and hitting is really hard. And if you have 4 bats and you hit 1 double off the wall and drive in 3, you may strike out the other 3 times, but you've had a good day. Because it is difficult back there. I think early on our guys were expecting it to be like the hack attack where you know a pitch is coming, but that's not the case. And I highly recommend anybody that's never seen it, the technology and the story behind it, how the 2 guys came up with the idea is pretty fascinating, especially if you're like a baseball junkie like I am. And I'm just thankful. We also had the most updated one, which our folk, B-Mart and KD, tell me, I guess some other videos came out with other teams getting them, that ours is the most updated, so it must be the best.
Thanks, Coach.